Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Kelso. I am the Resident Enhancement Shaman in Exiled Power on US Arthas. We are a Horde guild that is 13 out of 13 Mythic. Um, so I have a little bit of experience playing Enhancement Shaman, and I want to come to you to discuss the changes that are going to be happening in patch 7.0, which is dubbed the pre-patch for the Legion expansion. So basically, right now, what we have in front of us is a brand new um, Enhancement Shaman. Item levels 680, all green gear, nothing special, nothing crazy like that. Um, there are a couple things that I want to preface this conversation with, and that is Enhancement Shaman are going to be undergoing a lot of changes. First and foremost, we no longer use mana to do damage. We use Maelstrom, which we generate and spend, similar to a Fury Warrior or a Demon Hunter. So Maelstrom is generated by a few skills and passively and spent with a few other skills. And basically, it's our job to manage that well. And so I'm going to try and help you out with managing that and giving you some tips and tricks along the way. The second thing I want to talk about is the stat priority going into Legion or even patch 7.0. And that is the stat priority is going to be mastery first and foremost. And then haste, followed by crit and versatility. So the two stats outside of agility and stamina, and those primary stats, the two major secondary stats you want are mastery and haste. That being said, let's take a look at the spellbook real quick and just gloss over a few of the skills. Ancestral Spirit is our res. That's how you bring a party player back to life, or any player back to life for that matter. Astral Recall is a Hearthstone. It's an additional Hearthstone that Shamans get, which is really convenient and super nice because it's on a 10-minute cooldown and not on whatever the normal Hearthstone cooldown is. Astral Shift. This no longer is a talent. It is a skill that every Shaman spec gets across the board. Resto Shaman and Elemental Shaman and Enhancement Shaman will all have Astral Shift. The caveat with this new system is that Enhancement Shaman no longer have Shamanistic Rage. So we can't either stack those cooldowns or utilize those two cooldowns in such a way to mitigate more damage. We only have Astral Shift in our toolkit, unfortunately, moving forward. So, minute and a half cooldown, we take 40% less damage for 6 seconds. That's it. Bloodlust, it increases haste for 30% for 40 seconds. Huge damage increasing ability for not only yourself, but your party and your raid. So in this particular case, I have Boulder Fist. This is a talent that we will look into momentarily. But basically, this replaces Rockbiter. Rockbiter is a skill that you'll be using if you don't take Boulder Fist. But as we'll discuss in a few moments, you really don't have a lot of flexibility with the enhancement tree, talent tree right now in how it's going to be if what is on the PTR currently is going to make it into live 7.0 and in Legion. Cleanse Spirit, it removes all curse effects from a friendly target. Crash Lightning is the bread and butter for our AoE. Fire Nova no longer exists. Flame Shock no longer exists. Searing Totem, any other totems for enhancement no longer exist. So for AoE, we have Crash Lightning. It is an instant cast spell with a cooldown. For me right now on this character is only 4.66 seconds. It is affected by haste, so it may increase or decrease depending on the amount of haste that you currently have. It costs 20 Maelstrom, so it electrocutes all enemies in front of you, dealing 7,698 nature damage. Hitting 2 or more targets enhances your weapons for 10 seconds, causing Storm Strike and Lava Lash to also deal 3,207 nature damage to all targets in front of you. Like I said, bread and butter for AoE, this is it. You're going to put up huge numbers with Crash Lightning. Far Sight, it hasn't changed ever. Gives you the opportunity to look at new places without physically being there, so that's neat. Thanks, Blizzard. Feral Lunge, this is a talent. Again, I'll get into them in a second. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Feral Spirit, this is our cooldown. Actually, this will be the only cooldown realistically we use. Unfortunately, if things stay the way that they are currently. Summons 2 Spirit Wolves that aid you in battle for 15 seconds. They are immune to all movement impairing effects and grant you 5 Maelstrom each time they attack. So this is going to be huge when you start a boss fight and you're quote-unquote Maelstrom starved. They're going to be able to generate some Maelstrom for you, get you sort of in your rotation, moving, grooving along, and help you sort of stay afloat as far as Maelstrom goes throughout the fight. Flame Tongue, this is another maintenance buff that we have, so we lost down on Flame Shock, but we get Flame Tongue, which scorches your target, dealing 4985 fire damage and enhances your weapons with fire for 16 seconds, causing each weapon attack to deal up to 280 fire damage based on weapon speed. So, very, very, very low priority. You just you should refresh it once every 16 seconds. That's about it. It has a 10-yard range, so as you're charging into battle, you can always Flame Tongue first, and then start your rotation that way. Frostbrand costs 20 Maelstrom, 10-yard range, chills your target, dealing 4854 frost damage. It enhances your weapons with frost for 15 seconds. And reduces the target's movement speed by 50% for 3 seconds. So this is something you'll probably use a lot in PvP. I'm not a big PvPer myself, so I probably won't see much use out of it. For those of you who do PvP a lot, I'm sure that this will be huge. It'll probably be the equivalent to a Frost Shock as far as slowing targets, so on and so forth. Ghost Wolf is our big movement speed ability. You turn to a Ghost Wolf, increases your movement speed by 30%, and prevents you from being reduced below 100% movement speed. So really nice in PvP. Really nice in places where you can't mount up and you want to get around a little bit quicker. Healing Surge. So while we don't use Maelstrom to deal damage, while we don't use mana to deal damage, we use mana to heal. So Healing Surge has a large mana cost, but it doesn't heal for very much. So you'll only get about, 4, if that, 4 Healing Surges off, one after the other, before you go out of mana. It also consumes Maelstrom. So if you have Maelstrom at the moment, then it'll consume Maelstrom. But as you can see right now, I have 0 Maelstrom, and I am able to Healing Surge because I do have the 8,640 mana that it costs. That's pretty much it. It's nice for questing, and it'll be nice to be able to have a little heal for yourself, whatever, if you need a little bit of health. But other than that, it's really in a bad place from where it is currently in live. Lava Lash has changed drastically from where it was to how it is now. In 7.0, it will be your main Maelstrom dump. what I mean by that is when you are getting to around 70, 80 Maelstrom out of 100, this is something that you're going to want to start casting. It costs 30 Maelstrom, and it charges your offhand weapon, dealing lava, and burns your target, dealing 11,895 fire damage. You don't want to cap out on your Maelstrom because then you potentially lose out on casts over the course of a fight. So this prevents that by costing a high amount of Maelstrom and being spammable if necessary. And it deals a moderate amount of damage, nothing crazy, but enough to get by. Lightning Bolt, it doesn't cost any mana now. It doesn't cost anything, actually. It just has a 40-yard range, and it fires a bolt of lightning, dealing 1,574 nature damage. So this is going to be used primarily for, pulling a target during maybe a quest or something. You're just going to pull a mob towards you and pretty much, rather than running in, to a group of mobs, you can pull them out one at a time with Lightning Bolt. That's pretty much all it's used for. Purge. Purges the enemy target, removing one beneficial magic effect. It costs 6,400 mana, so it's quite expensive to be spamming. So maybe during arenas, PvP, that may not be an issue anymore, where you just have Enhancement Shamans as like an off-heal Purge spam bot. So I could see Purge being utilized a little bit less, but certainly still being utilized because it has a lot of value to it, purging the beneficial magic effect off of a target. Spirit Walk, 1 minute cooldown, removes all movement impairing effects, and increases your movement speed by 60% for 8 seconds. That is similar to where we are right now in live, but where we are in live is 15 seconds. So it's good to just get around a little bit quicker and do things with a little more gusto, if you will. Storm Strike, this is our bread and butter. This is it. This is what our rotation is. This is what our rotation is based around as Storm Strike. It costs 40 Maelstrom, 12.4 second cooldown in my gear currently, and affected by haste and everything like that. So energizes both of your weapons with lightning and delivers a massive blow to your target, dealing a total of 28,083 physical damage. This is huge, absolutely huge, and will be the main and highest damage dealing part of our rotation as of right now. You'll see it synergizes with a couple passives that I'm about to talk about, and you'll see how it does so much damage or why it does so much damage. But for right now, when Storm Strike is available to press on your action bar, you certainly want to be pressing it. Voodoo Totem, this is a totem that I took. It's a talent, so we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Water Walking, the same exact thing how it is live right now. Allows the friendly target to walk across water for 10 minutes. Damage will cancel the effect. It's pretty awesome and beneficial when you're trying to cross water and don't have flying, or can't access where you need to be because of or you want to get somewhere faster because you want to walk on the water and mount on the water versus swimming. Wind Shear, this is our interrupt ability. It's got a 30-yard range up from, I want to say, 25 or 20, where it currently is right now in live. 12-second cooldown, disrupts the target's concentration with a burst of wind, interrupting spellcasting and preventing any spell in that school from being cast for 3 seconds. You're going to want to use this whenever a target's casting something that you want interrupted, that you don't want them casting, whether it be on you or on a party, healing them, and so on and so forth. Into passives now. Maelstrom Weapon. Each time you deal damage with a melee weapon, you generate 5 Maelstrom. So this is a passive way of us generating Maelstrom on top of, Boulder Fist or Rock Biter, which actively generate Maelstrom. Mastery. So this is. I'll read the the tooltip right here. Increases your chance to trigger Stormbringer and Wind Fury by 5% and increases Fire, Frost, and Nature damage you deal by 40.71%. So this is why, like I said before, Mastery is the #1 secondary stat to have. The more Mastery you have, the more chances you're going to have to trigger Stormbringer and Wind Fury, and it's going to increase all of your damage, your Fire, Frost, and Nature damage that you deal significantly. So more mastery, more haste, it's only going to benefit you in the end. Reincarnation, this is something that, is pretty neat to shamans. We get a self-resurrect every 30 minutes. We revive with 20% health and mana. Caveat is, can only happen once every 30 minutes, so choose wisely. Stormbringer, this is by far the best passive talent that shamans have. Each of your main hand attacks has an 8% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to cost 50% less Maelstrom and trigger no cooldown. So this is beautiful because basically when Stormbringer procs, your Storm Strike on your bar down here is going to light up yellow, and you're going to want to hit that immediately because, like I said, you don't want Storm Strike to be on cooldown anyway. I'm sorry, you don't want Storm Strike to be off of its cooldown because you want to be using it that much. Stormbringer is going to not only let you cast Storm Strike more because it will reset the remaining cooldown on Storm Strike while it is on cooldown, but it'll also cost 50% less Maelstrom. So we're going from 40 Maelstrom to 20 Maelstrom. And it happens a lot more than you would think. Stormlash, while your weapons are enhanced, your attacks have a chance to grant Stormlash up to 2 party or raid members for 8 seconds, causing attacks and spellcasts to deal additional nature damage. This is neat. You'll have like little lightning, chain lightning coming out of you, and then sort of linking with a party or raid member, and it makes them do additional damage. So it's just a cool effect for us, DPS increase for them. It has no DPS increase for us. And then Wind Fury, each of your main hand attacks has an 8% chance to trigger 3 extra attacks, dealing 1,215 physical damage each. Essentially the same thing that's happened so far in the game. Wind Fury is just class fantasy for shamans. Additional attacks being done. So we're going to jump into talents real quick. Like I said before, unfortunately, there's no way to move a lot of these talents. Like the current build that it is right now on June 21st, 2016, when I'm making this video, these are the talents you have to take. This is how it needs to go. Boulder Fist, you have to take Boulder Fist. Slams your target with the power of stone, dealing 15,739 nature damage and enhancing your weapons for 10 seconds, increasing your critical strike chance by 10% and all damage you deal by 5%. It replaces Rockbiter, and it now generates 25 Maelstrom instead of 10. So this is huge, generates way more Maelstrom, does more damage, and then increases your crit and the damage you deal by 5%. It's a no-brainer. Feral Lunge I took on this tier because it imitates a warrior's charge. You can take Wind Rush Totem or Rainfall. Feral Lunge at your enemy, biting them to deal 74-56 physical damage. It has an 8 to 25 yard range with a 30-second cooldown, so it's like a charge, and super good for mobility. Which is why I recommend you take it. I took Voodoo Totem in the 45 tier. It replaces Hex, summons a totem at the target destination for 10 seconds. The totem hexes all enemies within 8 yards into frogs, which are incapacitated and unable to attack or cast spells. Damage or leaving the area will interrupt the effect. I took this. It's got a 30-second cooldown, 35-yard range. It's just... This is a toss-up. Lightning Surge, Earth Grab, or Voodoo Totem. It's up to you, really. It really holds no value in the end to your damage. The 60 tier, you want to take Ancestral Swiftness. Hailstorm and Lightning Shield are way undertuned in comparison to Ancestral Swiftness, which is a passive that increases your haste by 10% and attack speed by 10%. you want to take these two or you want to take Ancestral Swiftness because it by far outdoes the other two talents in this tier currently. On the 75 tier, I took Tempest. Tempest because it allows Stormbringer to affect the next two Storm Strikes, so it reduces the Maelstrom of the next two Storm Strikes by 50%. So really great for damage. Keeps your Maelstrom sort of in a good place where you're not overcapping, but you're also not below the threshold where you're starved on Maelstrom. Crashing Storm, another passive. Crash Lightning also electrifies the ground, leaving an electrical field behind that damages enemies within it for 9,072 nature damage over 6 seconds. Again, it's great because it's a passive, so you'll see in a moment when I start hitting a target dummy, when you use Crash Lightning, the ground will get all blue and lightning and everything, and then they'll just, targets that are standing in it will just take a little bit more damage. Unfortunately, no other talents on this tree are really tuned well, so Crashing Storm is the go-to. And then the level 100 tier, you should probably take Landslide, and by probably, I mean most likely all the time we'll be taking Landslide because it does so much damage. Boulder Fist now also enhances your weapon, increasing your attack power by 20% for 10 seconds. Unfortunately, another maintenance buff, but I mean 20% more attack power is 20% more damage, so it's a no-brainer. Ascendance I can see being used every now and again, depending on how short the fights are, or when you need burst or not, so on and so forth. But I'm pretty sure, theory crafting aside, Landslide will out DPS, out damage any of the other two on this tier to date. So that being said, let me go hit a dummy real quick and show you sort of how things are working. Basically, you can run in. Now I'm going to I'll start off by using my cooldown. So Feral Spirits, then I'll Flame Tongue here, then I'll Boulder Fist. I'll Crash Lightning, because guess what? We have some people to see on the ground. There's lightning on the ground. I can Crash Lightning because the cooldown is only 4.66 seconds. And then basically you see Stormbringer procced. And then right now we're capped on Maelstrom, so I'll Lava Lash. And yeah, I mean basically right now we're getting quite unlucky without any. There we go. Stormbringer just procced. As you can see, it's all lit blue. But yeah, I mean essentially this is it. If you really pay attention, there's not a lot to it at all. You want to maintain your maintenance buffs. But at the end of the day, it's pretty basic. It's really not. It's not a crazy difficult spec to play. As far as rotation goes, now you are going to have to make decisions on the fly. Whether you want to, Storm Strike, or whether you want to Boulder Fist, or if you can fit one more global cooldown of another skill in before you Flame Tongue. So that's where min-maxing the rotation comes into effect, and that's where I would spend my time. But I mean, there are not too many skills in the rotation, unfortunately. So the toolkit has been reduced quite a bit. But that's where it is right now. I'm fairly certain once Legion comes out and is playable, and we get to 110, Enhancement Shaman's got a few more abilities. That's when you'll have a bit more flexibility to the rotation and have a few more buttons to press. But as of right now, in patch 7.0, the pre-patch to Legion, this is sort of what we're dealing with. This is what's going to happen, and this is what we're looking at. So, all that aside, feel free to reach out to me if you need to. That's Kelso on Arthas. My guild is Exiled Power. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I look forward to seeing you guys in another video. Take care.